10 News is brought to you in high definition exclusively by Harper Auto Square. WBIR 10 News starts now.
As many as 200 Harlan County, Kentucky coal miners are out thousands of dollars, this in pay because their employer abruptly went bankrupt. Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin says the Labor Cabinet will investigate the coal mining company Black Jewel LLC. The cabinet will look into complaints the company failed to pay employees for time worked.
County leaders say the bankruptcy could impact almost 1,700 miners. And 10 News reporter Sean Franklin shows us how one miner's family is coping.
Coal miners affected by Black Jewel's financial troubles have been coming in and out of the Harlan County Judge Executive's office all day today. They're searching for any answers they can find.
Just an awful thing to happen.
His livelihood was taken from him with no warning.
Me, myself, and others, we all have kids, you know, and that's one of the best ways around this area to provide for your family as the coal mines.
Jared Blevins has worked for Black Jewel LLC for a few months now. He's one of almost 200 Harlan County miners whose last paychecks bounced, leaving them many thousands of dollars in the hole. On July 1st, employees were told the company had filed for bankruptcy. He was sent home and told he was going to get paid. That hasn't happened.
A lot of the guys that I talked, the biggest majority of them all right now is feeling trying to be more positive about it, you know, trying to just be positive about hopefully that we get to go back to work.
Harlan County Judge Executive Dan Mosley is doing what he can, printing letters explaining the situation to miners, banks, and creditors.
A situation like this should not ruin someone's credit when they had nothing to do with the cause of this. This is not their fault.
He says the county will hire a lawyer to represent the miners in bankruptcy court. He says he can do that because Black Jewel already owed thousands of dollars to the county in property taxes.
There's been no one present representing the miners. So we want to get an attorney to represent the miners to file an action to get back in front of this bankruptcy judge to see that these folks are taken care of.
A couple of coal miners told me that they're having another meeting in a neighboring county coming up tomorrow to get as much information out about the situation and about the future as they can. Back to you.
Moving now to your forecast. Today was the hottest day of the year so far. You can see kind of hazy skies over Knoxville, and on the weather porch you see the monitor and the thermometer, and we are looking at about 90 degrees.
And it reached 94 today. That was a record high for the year. And Todd, the last time we were this warm was July 4th of last year.
That's exactly right. July 4th last year, the last time we hit 94 degrees. That is the official high temperature today. Yes, as John Robbins said, the hottest so far this year. The record high, 102 degrees, set back in 1988. The average high, 88. So the previous highest temperature so far this year in Knoxville was back on May 29th when we were at 93. And we had a couple of 90-degree days right at 90 in June. That was the end of the month. So every day this month of July, we've been at or above 90 degrees. That's how hot it's been, and we maxed out so far today. Right now, 93 degrees at the airport. Feels like 96 degrees outside. That's the heat index. Humidity 42%. The dew point temperature 67 degrees. Winds are light, southwest at 5. Oak Ridge, you're down to 94. You were 96 degrees back at 5 o'clock. 93 in Oak Ridge, just like Knoxville. 92 in Dandridge. 94 in Sweetwater. 93 in Athens. Heat index in Sweetwater is 102 degrees. All right, we're mainly dry in East Tennessee, but we have seen some isolated to spotty showers developing in the mountains, and we will have a chance for some of these spotty showers to slide into the valley this evening. Pigeon Forge, Wares Valley around Gatlinburg, also near and south of Tellico Plains. Chance for these spotty showers this evening, and then slowly dissipating with another warm and muggy night heading our way. That's it for now. I'll be back with your extended forecast, Robin.
All right, Todd, thank you very much.
Now to an update on a 10 News investigation. The CEO of troubled healthcare company Rennova is now suing a Tennessee lawmaker. Seamus Lagan claims Representative John Mark Window called him a thief and an Irish gangster in a television interview. Window represents District 41 in the state, which includes Morgan County and parts of Fentress County. Lagan claims the remarks were part of a malicious campaign to destroy his professional and personal life. Lagan goes on to claim the attack came after the closure of Rennova's Jamestown Regional Medical Center, the only hospital in Fentress County closed in mid-June after the government stopped paying for the treatment of Medicare patients. That healthcare CEO says he is suffering mental anguish and emotional distress and wants $100,000 in damages. Representative Wendell offered the following response to 10 News. The hardworking people of Fentress County and the Cumberland Plateau deserve a well-run hospital filled with talented doctors and nurses that provide world-class health care, and I'll never stop fighting for that. Right now at WBIR.com, you can see several of our investigative reports on the troubles at Rennova, including revelations the Jamestown Hospital was low on supplies and owed millions of dollars. Plus, some employees claim the company failed to submit their paycheck withholdings to the IRS.
Well, the Helen Ross McNabb Center is partnering with UT Medical Center to help connect emergency room patients with support and resources. The United Health Foundation awarded Helen Ross McNabb a 3-year, $1 million grant. It hopes to engage more than 250 patients per year, with the goal that 100 of those patients will accept referrals to outpatient or other treatment options. 10 News spoke to a 3-time overdose survivor, and she says any help in the fight against addiction is worth the effort.
Everything that I had been through up to that point, that was kind of an eye-opener to me. I guess that someone cared enough about my life to physically remove me from the situation.
Stanley is 25 years old and will be 3 years clean in just a few weeks. She's a mother of 2 and is certified to help others in their recovery efforts.
Tennessee Governor Bill Lee says he will continue to work to bring jobs to Tennessee. He made those comments this afternoon while visiting Loudoun. The governor recently returned from a trip to Japan to attract more companies to invest in this state, and also recently announced Mitsubishi is relocating its U.S. headquarters to Middle Tennessee from California. The governor says there are 200 Japanese-owned companies in Tennessee, and they make a difference.
And it's an example of how foreign direct investment really does impact Tennesseans. Those Japanese companies employ 52,000 people in Tennessee. So when we can attract companies, even from out of the country, who are looking to invest in America, when we can attract them to Tennessee, that's good for all of us.
Governor Lee also talked about criminal justice reform, saying it remains a top priority. In the last few years, we've seen a mix of record-breaking rainfall and extreme drought in East Tennessee, but that record book only goes back about 150 years.
WBIR 10 News reporter Jim Atheny shows us how a UT grad student is putting a new twist on an old research project to find centuries of climate records in trees.
So I want to get to the center of the tree. It doesn't do any damage to the tree.
Laura Smith turns to the trees for a hidden diary of the weather.
Dendrochronology. I study tree rings. The rings really do pop out.
This PhD student at the University of Tennessee says look closely. There's a ring for every year, and every ring tells a story.
Measuring the ring width, we can measure their rings and then cross-date them. I mean, they line up to the year. A narrow ring for us would indicate a more dry year.
These stories captivate the Tennessee Valley Authority. It teamed up with Smith because it wants to know what our climate was like going back hundreds, up to 1,000 years before we started keeping rainfall records.
We only know what happened for about 100 years. In terms of how climate changes over time, that's not very much information. The trees are going to allow us a better idea of what happened over longer time spans. If we can understand a little bit better about like, oh, well, there may have been a period where there was, more significant drought, or for longer periods of time, we can start to think about how that may impact us in the future.
But this research also fills in some other blanks. It's a modern twist on an old project TVA started in the 1930s. That's when it hired Florence Hawley to study the trees and the climate of the Norris Basin.
Oh, she's a rock star in our field. The first female dendrochronologist.
Hawley came to Tennessee and began sampling trees throughout the region, but the environment of the time was not hospitable.
There were certainly gender discrimination issues with her being a female scientist in the 1930s. Besides this being difficult and tedious work to begin with, she was up against this questioning of her abilities.
Even though some of TVA's top scientists said there was nobody better in the world than Holly, when she arrived, her title was Associate Scientist.
And she's essentially saying, you know, associate to whom? I'm leading this project.
In another letter, a manager says TVA could hire an engineer, a man, and train him to do Holly's job, because that would be easier than trying to teach her how to be an engineer.
It being the 1930s, it was just pretty blatant.
Eventually, Holly took a job as a professor at the University of New Mexico and did other groundbreaking research around the country. Yet the work she did at TVA was never published. It abandoned the project and the sample she collected. But a couple of years ago, TVA's hydrologist came across this old work and decided to bring the story full circle by getting Smith to continue what Holly started.
I feel like I have a lot of emotional investment in this project to do right by her legacy. It's important for young girls and young women to see other women going out there and doing the work.
Finishing this research can reveal a range of just how extreme our climate gets, so TVA can make sure it's prepared for a worst-case scenario, and having hard data to show that promise rings true.
Understanding historic climate, then use the data for water management.
So Smith keeps turning to the forest and sampling old cedars, and carries on a legacy that goes back to the roots of a pioneer, to discover the stories and the secrets hidden in the trees.
The fact that we can understand little bits and pieces about the environmental history through tree rings is just, I think it's really interesting and exciting.
In Knoxville, Jim Matheny, WBIR 10 News.
Trees are hurt or cut down when they take these samples, and the researchers want your help finding red cedars using an app called iNaturalist. It's on your phone. The app lets you mark the exact location of the trees at TVA recreation sites. We have a link and instructions at WBIR.com.